All right, we're gonna make challah today. Challah is my favorite kind of bread. I love it. I don't know, I was the kind of kid who would sometimes just reach into a French loaf or something and peel out just the white stuff and like smush it and chew it and eat it. And challah is like the best version of that. Challah is an enriched dough. So what that means is that there's some fat and sugar in it. It's not just yeast, flour, and water. What this means is it takes a little bit longer for the yeast to do its thing because it's got, obstacles on the way to consuming all those delicious carbohydrates. One of the reasons I want to develop my own challah recipe is there are some famous ones out there and my mom's tried them and she's like, bland, lame. What I've been trying to do here is to make the challah a little richer, a little sweeter, a little more interesting without taking any of its innate challah-ness out of it, We don't want to eat hollow challah. Okay, so we have some saffron here. It's like a flour frond. You gotta go to each flower and, poke it out like you're some kind of insect. I learned this from a friend of mine named Ozzy. Hi, Ozzy. Take the fronds and just sort of roll them back and forth in your fingers. Don't need any special tools, just sort of crunch them. Put about 2 tablespoons of boiling water into your saffron and immediately it'll start giving off this beautiful golden color. So we need to let this steep for about 10 minutes, and while that's happening, we'll talk about the other ingredients here. So we have water, some sugar, and some salt. We have honey instead of sugar to do the main bulk of the sweetening. Eggs. Eggs make the challah richer. Walnut oil is a really great, mostly neutral oil, but then it kind of leans on the rich, nutty side of things. Poppy seeds, which we're gonna put on top of it. Flour. I use a mixture of mostly just all-purpose flour, but there's a little bit of spelt flour in it. Spelt is also just a very tiny bit sweet and a very tiny bit nutty. So we've got our saffron water that's been steamed for a little while. So we're gonna pour that into our mixing bowl. And then we have a little bit more water. Just gonna kind of pour it back and forth between here to get all that remaining saffron stuff out of there. We have our little cat piss with flour bits. We're gonna take 2 teaspoons of granulated sugar, get it in there. And we also wanna get about 2 teaspoons of yeast. Toss that in there. Now we can just sort of whisk it a little bit to combine them all. We're going to whisk in our walnut oil. Combine that. Why is my brain not working? Our eggs. So you're gonna wanna crack the eggs in one at a time. Boop. For the third egg we're gonna put in, we just want the yolks. No! Dump it in your hand and let the yolk kind of fall through slight holes in your fingers. Bloop. We sort of emulsified the oil and the water, and the eggs have helped us do that. Get a little bit of salt in here. You're gonna want help with the honey, a spatula, because it's hard to get it to all come out. Help a little bit with the whisk. Making ourselves a kind of thick, viscous fluid here. We are ready to move on to the dry ingredients. So I've taken the spelt and the all-purpose flour and I've mixed them together. Knock some of it in there. Gently whisk it in here. I've gone from cat piss to cat puke. You might wonder why I'm spinning the bowl counter to the direction that I am whisking. And the answer is there's no reason. We're getting towards cake batter consistency. All right, so once that's nice and smooth, we're ready to discard our whisk. Oh God. Put in yet another quarter of our flour and we just keep going. So now it's starting to ball up. We're gonna need the dough and I don't want it to stick. I'm gonna turn it out on here. This is kind of coming together as sort of like some kind of ball-like creature. All right, so you're gonna take the dough and you're gonna fold it over itself and push a couple times, and then you're gonna turn it around and do the same thing. And as it starts to get a little bit sticky on the outside, then now you know it's time to add more flour to your work surface. So have a little bowl of flour ready, dust your work surface a little bit more. It'll start to feel like Play-Doh if you remember what that feels like. And you could add up to a quarter cup more flour while you're doing this. People always tell you baking's a science, and it's true. It's less of a margin for error, but honestly, it's greater than they would let you believe. You don't want any lumps, so the dough is smooth. You want it to be tacky, meaning you feel it try to touch your fingers a little bit, but it doesn't actually stick. You want it to be springy, so it kind of bounces back. You can call it a day when you hit that spot. And I think we're there. We're gonna put some oil into our bowl and just get it all over there. Plop. Then we're gonna put this guy in a warm place and you're gonna keep it there for about an hour to an hour and a half. I'm gonna put a little bit of oil on the cover as well. All right, so it's been about an hour and a half, 90 minutes. We'll take a look at the dough now. It should about doubled in size, and we're gonna kind of press some air out of it. Punch it down, and then kind of fold it up and over itself like so. I like to do a little upside down flop here. So we've waited another 45 minutes and the dough is nice and poofy again. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna break this up into 4 little challah logs. Challah logya. Without further ado, let's do that. Fine, you want some help? There you go, help. We're gonna start by approximating, breaking this into 4. I wanna make a round braid, which is more typical for Rosh Hashanah because it symbolizes, I don't know, eternity or something like that. Maybe like peace or apricots or something. You know, less like a lumpy log and more like a beautiful loaf. Yes, I was gonna say beautiful log. 318, 226. Wow, I suck.
You know what you can also do?
No.
Put the whole thing on there, divide by 4.
Alex is right as always. So our total dough weight is about 1,100, somewhere between 1,100 and 1,200. 307, 300, 302. That's pretty good. You don't have a kitchen scale. You're just gonna have to do it
Divide by 4.
Divide by 4 and just hope you get it right. You got a baking sheet. We want to make little logs. Get it in between your hands like this. This is one of our 4 things. And roll it. Once you got it kind of like a ball-ish, just kind of roll back and forth. We're going to start making a log. Ooh, getting a little schlongy there. Put it down, right? Get your hands on the inside and start pushing them out as you roll back and forth. And when it gets to be about a foot long, maybe a little longer because it'll retract a bit, then you're done. Good dough. It's like a mini workout. I don't know if it can compete with Tai Bo. Do they look that consistent to you? No. It doesn't really matter too much.
And also the rising will kind of remove some sins.
You know, that's really true, Alex.
It'll cover up the imperfections.
Time heals all wounds.
Yes.
Now it's time for us to make our pretty little weave.
Like a tic-tac-toe.
Like tic-tac-toe, right, exactly. And then you want to make it like an alternating weave, the same way you'd lock a top of a box if you don't have any tape. Because we're on top of the first, we're going to go under the second, and then we'll do the opposite on this side. So because this one goes under, we'll have this one go over, and then it'll go under on the other side. Well, I'm going to start by going to the left. So this one that's right in front of me and underneath, I'm going to pop it over its neighbor over here. And then this one that's underneath, I'm gonna pop it under its neighbor over here. And then this one that's underneath, I'm gonna pop it under its neighbor over here. You see what's starting to happen? Finally, we're gonna have this guy underneath and we're gonna pop it under its neighbor over here. Now I'm back to where I started. This time I'm gonna go the opposite direction. So I've got this guy underneath, I'm gonna pop it back over its neighbor over here. And the same for you. And the same for you. And the same for you. You go back over this way. And same to you. And same to you. And same to you. And then just tuck it under when you get to the end. And then you're left with a beautiful kind of challah braid. We need to do something called an egg wash. And this is where we brush a beaten egg on the outside of the challah. We just get a bowl and a fork and an egg. We break the egg into the bowl. I'm gonna use a pastry brush to do this. If you don't, you can just get your hands all nasty and do that, but I'm not gonna do that because I don't have to. Soak it in the egg, and then you're just gonna slather it on. Make sure to get all the nooks and crannies and all the sides of the bread all gussied up for the prom. You're gonna let this guy rise another hour. And we're gonna brush them all over again. What a good bread. What a good, pretty bread. I'm a poppy seed person. I love sesames and all sorts of things, but I like poppy seeds on challah. Take a big pinch of them and, you know, go about like 6 inches to a foot above the challah and just kind of rain it down. You rain in poppy seeds. You'll probably miss getting some of the sides, so I'm gonna do some, oh, that was pretty thick.
Sideways rain.
Sideways rain, right.
It looks like the challah has a 5 o'clock shadow, doesn't it?
That's actually a great description. The oven, which I forgot to tell you, has been preheating to 375. We're gonna put it in there for 15 minutes, and then we're gonna brush it with egg again, and you'll see why. So pretty. What we're gonna do is we're gonna brush the areas of it that aren't brown yet. That will make our challah all the prettier. So I'm going in all these gaps. I'm gonna stick them back in for about 15 to 20 minutes, depending on how accurate your oven is. Wow, and look how beautiful that is. All of this area that is lighter colored is because it rose in the oven and it's not covered by the egg wash. And all the parts that we covered by the egg wash are this beautiful kind of dark golden brown color. And we can move it over to a wire rack to cool. And hooray. So we want to let it cool for 30 minutes to an hour before we dig into it. Say hi. If we look on the inside, if you peel it apart, instead of it being fragile, you'll have these kind of strands that come off. All right, I see. I wasn't supposed to eat it yet, but I already did. So it is delightfully just sweet. It's got that nice, rich doughiness that challah has, and the tiny bit of nuttiness that comes through from the walnut oil and the spelt just gives it more going on than the kind of generic challah recipe you might find in, I don't know, the New York Times. So eat it plain, dip it in honey, put walnut butter on it, break bread, say a prayer, drink some wine, make a sandwich. I don't know, challah's good for everything. So yeah, make some challah. My nose has been above it this entire time, and all I could do is like desperately want to just reach into it. Yeah. We could try. We could definitely try. We could definitely try. Definitely, we could try. Definitely. No, you don't have to pray. You don't have to be reverent. It's just like you're just supposed to be happy that you have bread. It's just about being happy that you have bread.
I'm happy this is sitting in front of us.
Right, but you'd be happier if you get to eat it, right?
Yeah.
All right, so Baruch atah Adonai.
Baruch atah Adonai.
Eloheinu melech haolam.
Say that again.
Eloheinu melech haolam.
Eloheinu melech haolam.
That's cool. I'm just as bad as it.
Does that mean we can eat this?
No.
Oh.
Hamotzi.
Hamotzi.
Lechem.
Lechem.
Min haaretz.
Min haaretz.
Now we can eat the bread.
Yeah.